Hello, here I'm going to cover chapter 7.3, evaluating the trigonometric functions. So on 1 through 4, it says sketch the angle in standard position and specify the reference angle or reference number. Okay, so 300 degrees is going to be, 300 degrees is 270 plus 30. Okay, and there are actually two reference angles you can look at. You can look at, we have 30 degrees on the inside, and we have 60 degrees right there, because 30 plus 60 is 90. Okay, 1,000 degrees, let's subtract multiples of 360. So let's subtract 720. So this would be 180. So that's going to be right there at -1, comma 0. -15 degrees. That's just going down 15. So there are 15 degrees right inside here. And then over here, this would be 75 degrees. -15 degrees. Five pi over 6. 5 pi over 6 is 150 degrees. It's 1 pi over 6 off of the axis. Negative pi over 3. Negative pi over 3 is 60 degrees down. We're going to have 30 degrees on this side. 2 pi over 3, this is 120 degrees. Five pi over 4. So this is 1 pi over 4. So 5 pi over 4 is going to be So now we're going to evaluate some of these. So secant of 45 degrees It's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And 45, 45, 90 triangle, we're going to have side lengths of radical 2 over 2, 1, and 1. No. 1, radical 2 over 2, and radical 2 over 2. This squared plus this squared will equal 1. So secant is going to be your hypotenuse over your cosine. So this is going to be 1 divided by root 2 over 2. Okay, which will give me 2 divided by root 2. When you rationalize the denominator, this will give you just root 2. Cosecant of 45 is going to be the same thing. Cosecant of 30 degrees. So with these, I go pronounced long and pointy to really emphasize that 30-degree angle. So if your hypotenuse is 1, the long side is going to be radical 3 over 2, and the short side is going to be 1/2. So the cosecant of 30 degrees cosecant is going to be the hypotenuse divided by the opposite. Okay, and this is equal to 2. Maybe I should explain how this came about. So if we have the hypotenuse divided by the cosine, you have the hypotenuse divided by the cosine. If I were to multiply this by 2 over root 2, it's a non-zero number. It's the same non-zero number over itself. So it didn't change. But here in the denominator, these simplify out, giving you 2 over root 2. But there you have a radical in the denominator. We can rationalize this denominator by multiplying by root 2 over root 2. What this gives you is 2 root 2 in the numerator. Radical 2 times radical 2 is 2. And then now these simplify out, giving you just radical 2. Okay, same thing going on here. If I were to multiply this by 2 over 1 over 2 over 1, this denominator simplifies, and I have 2 over 1 times 1, which is 2. Okay. Secant of 30, I'm going to use the same triangle. Secant of 30 is going to be your hypotenuse over your x value. So we have the hypotenuse over the x value. 1 over 1 is the same thing as 1. So that now when I multiply this by a non-zero number over itself, I get in the numerator 2 divided by root 3. When I multiply this by radical 3 over radical 3, this is going to give me 2 radical 3 over 3. Cosine of 150 So if you take a look and see where that's going to be at, (150 degrees) is 30 degrees off the axis. So my angle in here is 30 degrees. This has to be a 60 degrees. We have our familiar 30, 60, 90 triangle, 1, 1/2, and this is in the negative direction. We have negative radical 3 over 2. So cosine is the x value. Cosine this is going to be negative radical 3 over 2. Cosine of negative 150 degrees, that's going to end us up so that this is 30 degrees, this is 60 degrees, and now this is going to be negative 1/2, 1, negative root 3 over 2. So the cosine is the x value. Cosine is going to be negative radical 3 over 2. Sine of 150 degrees. So this is the triangle. So sine will be 1/2 over 1, or 1/2 positive. Sine of negative 150 degrees. This is negative 150. So sine will be negative 1/2. Cosine of 585. So let's make this between 0 and 360. So let's go 585 minus 360 degrees. You get 225 degrees. 225 degrees is 45 plus 180. This end up in quadrant 3. And so this is going to be root 2 over 2, negative. This will be negative root 2 over 2, and this will be a positive 1. So cosine of this will be negative root 2 over 2. Cosine of negative 585, okay. Should end us up in quadrant 2. Yeah, 135. So this is negative radical 2 over 2. This would be positive radical 2 over 2 with a hypotenuse of 1. So cosine is the x value. So cosine here will be negative radical 2 over 2. Okay. Sine of 585. Sine of 585, I can use this one, 585, which gets me down into here. So sine is the y value. Sine is negative root 2 over 2. Sine of negative 585 is going to be the same as this one here. So sine is the y value. Sine is going to be positive root 2 over 2. Which if you try that in your calculator, you'll get 0.7071. It's a number that you should be familiar with. Cosine of 405. Okay, let's make this a smaller number. And that's 45. So that's going to be in quadrant 1, 45-degree angle. Since it's a right angle, this is radical 2 over 2, radical 2 over 2, and 1. Cosine is your x value. So this is going to be radical 2 over 2. Cosine of negative 405. Let's add 720 degrees to this. I get 315. So we're going to be in quadrant 4. And this is going to be positive radical 2 over 2. This will be a negative radical 2 over 2 and a 1. Now, cosine is your x value, so this is going to be radical 2 over 2. Sine of 405. Sine of 405, I can use this chart here. Sine is your y value. So this will give you radical 2 over 2. Sine of negative 405. So it'll be the same as this chart here. So sine is your y value, be negative radical 2 over 2. Okay, thank you very much. Please go to tutoring.